Hello, everybody. So I've been 30 now for about 1 month, and I thought I'd do a video all about my experiences of being 30 so far and why being 30 is brilliant in my opinion and why it's so much better than your 20s. Um, and yeah, I'll share some advice maybe about what you should do in your 20s to enjoy your 30s. If I'm, in such a position to give advice, right, being only 30, only having been 30 for 1 month. I don't know really. I'd like to, yeah, but give like some advice for your 20s and how to make the most of your 20s and what your 20s is really all about and what the difference is between your 20s and your 30s. I think I'll start by saying though that I think the major difference between my 20s and my 30s is that my 20s, it's very difficult, isn't it? Like starting out in life without that much knowledge and experience of life, and it's very daunting. It's difficult. You've got to adjust to life. You've got to learn and develop skills and competencies and all these sorts of things. Pursue ambitions, pursue dreams, whatever. And yeah, it's all very daunting and difficult. But the magic of it is, it does get easier. It really does. It does definitely get easier. My life now is a lot easier. Well, it's still challenging. It's still challenging in all sorts of ways. I still need to do all sorts of things. I work. I need to improve and learn more about the job that I do, to develop competence at it, and to continue the process of doing that. I write, do stand up comedy, all these sorts of things. I still need to improve on those things. Still need to sort of figure out a way of producing more and better work, if you know what I mean. And yeah, it's not like the process of self-development is over, I don't think. It's nothing, that's not it at all. Um, I think it's, or maybe it is over. Maybe I'm as good now as a writer as I'll ever need to be, since I've spent about a decade practicing it. But then again, the first draft of anything is always shit, and I don't know, maybe I think my writing's shit. But then again, it might be the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I might be on the downward slope of the Dunning-Kruger curve and thinking my writing's shit, and because I think it's shit, therefore it's actually not shit, it's good. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I need people to sort of tell me it's good, but when people tell me something I do is good, I ignore them. um, and I only listen to negative criticism, really. As long as it's good negative criticism, as long as it seems appropriate, and well, as long as it seems, as long as I have a point with the negative criticism, and it's not just, "Oh, I hated it." Like, why did you hate it? What about it did you hate? So on. As long as it's not like, oh, I got offended by it. It's like, oh, shut up. No one cares you got offended. But yeah, like no, your 30s, I think. I can't comment on your 30s in general. I can comment on your 20s. I just feel so much more relaxed in my 30s now. I feel so much happier in a general sense. I think I've managed to achieve or attain or acquire or sequester a kind of a stable and consistent level of happiness, which is something I'm very thankful for. And I'm very thankful that I've managed to do that in my 20s, since I had a fairly miserable time in my 20s, I think. I went through an awful lot of shit that not many people actually have to go through, or that not all that many people go through in life. And yeah, huge, horrible things happening all over the place, really. Abusive family, trouble at university, this, that, and the other. Yeah, getting sectioned under the Mental Health Act several times, very often illegally. In the first instance, it was illegal anyway, and all that stuff that I've talked about in the past that, you know, people don't want to talk to me about still. And yeah, I had a very, very difficult time. Really tough it was. Very, very hard. I made homeless 3 times. due to unbearable situations at home, unbearable family members. Really actually like getting quite vile, not into vile, nasty human beings. I think they were anyway, and I think in my life as a teenager, exactly the same misery, utter misery at home, using school as kind of like a respite from the dire and disgusting family situations to just take a break from it all and entertain myself and try and entertain other people, which sort of like I guess is why I ended up trying to become a comedian, right? Because I very much use laughter as a coping mechanism for the abusive relationships at home, and joking around and laughing at and making fun of things at school as a way of coping with all that shit. And yeah, and then trying to heal myself really during my 20s, trying to like attain consistent and stable levels of happiness and all these sorts of things throughout my 20s, and being successful at doing that, and eventually kind of achieving a state whereby like uh, through my own work on myself and through my own efforts have managed to achieve a sustainable level of happiness, I think. And happiness comes about through a variety of things. It comes about through creative endeavors, exploits like that. It comes about through things like reading and writing, those disciplines, if you like. It comes about through being in contact with nature and the outside world, in farming, which is what I also do as part of my career, I suppose. Or farming is probably going to end up being the thing I fall back on if stand-up comedy and writing don't work, or if I can't, for whatever reason, continue with stand-up comedy and writing. I'll become a farmer. But which I also love. I'm just kind of like, this is a hangover from my 20s as well, because I've been throwing like lots of different ambitions together and just seeing what sticks and seeing what I stick with and seeing what I enjoy, but also being experimental. Like I've always wanted to, as a consequence of having grown up on a farm, I wanted to get into dairy farming for at least some amount of time and try and do that and try and get good at it. Try and get good at milking cows and try and get good at being a farmer and so on and all this sort of thing. And really, I think I am getting there with it. I think I'm getting pretty okay at milking, or getting okay at milking, and getting okay at sort of herdsmanship, stock related tasks, if you like. But really, I'm progressing no faster or slower than anyone else would be, I don't think. Or someone else who's committed to it, and I am committed to it also. But then again, how committed am I to it? If stand-up comedy were to take off, I would probably do stand-up, but it would need to take off before I was able to pursue it properly. But then again, in order for it to take off, I've got to do probably something else, let's face it, other than farming, and then support myself somehow, and probably live in a city and do it for a year or something, which might be my ambition for next year. But then again, I've also got this rockets building ambition on the horizon, which I'm intending to. This is what I'm actually intending to do. I'm intending to moonlight as a stand-up comic and writer, while also developing my rocket Laval Stream 1, which would be a rocket made out of plastic Kevlar with very big hot engines. One that actually they'd be neither very big nor very hot, hopefully. Well, no, they'd be very hot, certainly, but wouldn't be very big, and they'd be coated in a hell of a lot of Kevlar. But that's basically the plan for that. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get back to like why your 20s is good. It's not. Mine wasn't. Well, it was, but it was painful. It was a painful process of self-development. That's really what I went through in my 20s, I think. It was very much a kind of a constant grind towards improvement in a variety of different domains, not all of which were connected. and like trying to connect up those domains later in life. I think I could. Like, I think when I'm just going through my older material on stage as a stand-up comic, um, I can perform pretty well as a comedian. I think I have done it before. I have cracked it before when I made rooms full of people laugh with my ridiculous material, and it has worked. But then again, there's been loads of other times when it hasn't worked. I'm just trying to think the common factors associated with when it has worked. There's been things like smoking weed before going on stage. That is green kryptonite for me. That fucks everything up. And I love smoking weed. I do. I adore cannabis. But it is kryptonite for the comedy stage. That's the unfortunate thing about it. Or maybe I should just go with being I'm not funny when I'm stoned at all. I'm deeply unfunny, in fact. I have Asperger's syndrome, I'm 99% convinced. So I think it does I react to it in a similar way to the way in which Elon Musk reacts to it. And if you like see Elon Musk when he was getting high on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, he did take one toke of a doobie and was like, it completely fucked with him. And I do exactly the same thing. Yeah, I do exactly that. Yeah, I have more experience now in life. That's the major thing I wanted to sort of try and get across in this video. I have more experience, I've lived longer, I've learned more, I've put more time and effort into developing competence in, as I've said, various domains. I feel hence more confident. I hence feel more confident about myself. I feel like I've worked usefully towards a variety of different objectives, and I've produced several books in my 20s, most of which probably need continual, working on and going over with a fine-tooth comb and all this sort of stuff, and a mountain of poetry I've also produced, most of which isn't very good. Almost all of it needs, again, working on, but it's not a problem. They're just kind of like achievements that are in a prodrome still, if you know what I mean, and they're kind of like nascent, budding achievements. Or there's other things that I've done that I think are more close to being finished and are more solidly finished, if you know what I mean. It's like what Da Vinci said about art: it's never finished, it's merely abandoned. Maybe I feel that to some extent. I don't know. I've got a very large number of ideas also about what I want to do for my future, and I think I'm also of the opinion now that I'm probably not going to be able to do all of them, and I have to kind of harmonize and sort through them carefully and form a rigid and no, not rigid necessarily, but a robust plan for how to go forward and deal with the various things in life that I want to do and want to achieve. For instance, I'm thinking about writing this Harry Potter spin-off called The Order of Merlin, because I invented this this new headmaster of Hogwarts character called Professor Ed Higglytoferiatrix. And he's kooky and strange, a delightful character, and an incredibly powerful wizard, obviously, a very, very powerful sorcerer. He was formerly of the Sage Auras, which is kind of like wizarding forensics in this kind of adjunct to the world building of the main Potter universe. So he's kind of like a wizarding forensic scientist who specializes in charms and transfiguration, and does things like enchant satellites to spy upon the wizarding community. And he's of the family Higglytoferiatrix, which is a secret family of wizarding spies and all this sort of thing. He's like a kind of a cross between a sort of a wizarding spy and like wizarding police officer or something, but he becomes the headmaster of Hogwarts because I don't know, they wanted to churn him out of the Sage Auras for some reason, maybe because he was too much of an oddball or whatever. I don't know. Half pixie. I'm gonna make him trans and bisexual, I think, possibly, or asexual. I don't know. He's got a squib secretary called Cylinder. Kathy Cylinder, Miss Cylinder. Yeah, and I want to do all those sorts of things as well. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm going to be able to, if you know what I mean, with everything else going on, building rockets and trying to get fusion energy infrastructure installed into outer space. Like, if I have like a month free from doing any of those sorts of things, then I'll write the Higgler to Feriatrix Order of Merlin Harry Potter spin-off. But I don't know, it's a constant grinding existential battle, isn't it? Trying to figure out what you want to do in life. And I've figured out what I want to do in life, but within each thing of what I want to do in life, writing, stand-up comedy, farming, rockets, etc., 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 I keep finding subsets of different things, different projects within each kind of central ambition that might entail unbelievable amounts of work, like the building of a rocket. Like, for anyone who doesn't really know about the rigors of that process, it is incredibly time intensive, work intensive. It's an incredible amount of work is what goes into building rockets. I think I said it, at one point, like, how hard could it possibly be? It turns out extremely hard is how hard building rockets is. But nonetheless, I think I could do it. Nonetheless, I think with the time and the resources, I could construct a rocket capable of getting to space. I do believe that still. Do I quite see it working? Actually, what? I don't know. I think is the answer to that. I think, yeah. Well, there's examples of people who've done it before, who've gotten things to orbit, who've gotten rockets into orbit. Amateur groups have done it. Elon Musk has done it. Then there's Stoke Space and Rocket Lab and Firefly and a few of the other sort of private space companies that have started up now. And I'm starting my own private space company building plastic rockets. So it'd be a sort of USP for the rocket building industry, wouldn't it? A new USP for an airframe made out of carbon fiber, insulated with Kevlar. Maybe that would work. Save on weight. But then again, surely it must work because they build hypersonics out of composites and plastic. And that's why we have hypersonic nukes and things. Because they're constructed out of plastic. Hence they can go at Mach 20. Well, can they go Mach 20? I don't think we know how fast they can go. That's sort of the point of hypersonics, isn't it? It's kind of very much semi-secret government stuff still. So yeah, I do spend a lot of time thinking about my own ambitions and thinking about how to go about achieving things like this. I still do. And I'm really kind of hoping. See, what I'm doing now is I'm working on a dairy farm currently to save up a few £1,000s, like a personal survival budget thing, so I can afford to comfortably rent a room in Bristol while also renting office space and workshop space paid for with business loan. And yeah, actually, I'm expecting the rockets thing to fail. It will fail. I should expect it to fail. I should have that attitude of pessimism towards it. Definitely. Yes. it will probably fail. That's the truth as well. Most businesses, for one thing, will probably fail. When it comes to building rockets, though, it's a very failure conducive thing. It's an activity in which is very liable to entail failure. If it didn't, a lot more people would be doing it. That's the other thing about it as well. But I mean, really, also, we're now at the very beginning of private space exploration. That's the other thing I'm thinking. There has only been people, private companies trying to launch things into space for about 20 years. That's no time at all. That's like hardly any people have tried to launch things into space as private individuals. It's just not very popular. It's not like the automotive sector, really, where, you know, like there's loads and loads and loads and loads of people who build cars. You know, either kit cars or refurbishing old cars. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many gearheads out there who build cars. How many people out there build rockets? Not that many. Not that many people build planes either. Not that many people build boats. But I imagine the amount of people who build boats is greater than the amount of people who build planes, and the amount of people who build planes is greater than the amount of people who build rockets for space. If I to go on a limb and say it. So when focusing on the ambition of building rockets for space, it is an ambition that focuses on a very incredibly small cadre of human beings, isn't it? Really. I would like to get into that world of rockets more, and networking and so on, and try and do it. But so, all right, I've been rambling now for 22 minutes. I'm gonna think I'm gonna round this one off. Your 20s is, I think, a decade. I worked hard in my 20s. I did a lot of different things, as I've said, that I'm proud of. I put in a great deal of effort into a great many different domains, mostly in stand-up comedy and writing, mostly writing, and that breaks down into a few different subsets also. Yeah, I'm very proud that I did that. I'm very pleased with myself that I did that. I think I've set myself up well in terms of having developed skill for a career as a writer, if I'm ever liable to achieve such a thing. You know what I mean? I think I've done everything in my power to try and attain that objective. A career as a writer. And, you know, writers write on average 4 books before they get published. I've written 2, so it stands to reason, you know, unless I'm a prodigiously talented writer, which I doubt I am, it stands to reason that I've got another 2 books to write before I get published. Statistically, anyway, if I'm to follow the statistics of it. And the average writer doesn't get published until they're 36. Or the average age for when you get your first book published is 36. And I also am aware of that. So I'm looking forward to my 30s as kind of a decade in which I'm liable to achieve success. And if I don't achieve success in this decade, it was probably never meant to happen in the first place. So I am very cognizant of that also. I conceive of this decade as kind of like a decade of yet more work ahead of me, yet more attempts to try and build the sort of life that I want to build for myself. But I got this ambition of building rockets last year in my year 29, or my 30th year, if you like. Am I overloading myself? I was like, no, I'm not. I don't think so. I think I'm going to move to Bristol. I'm going to rent office space and workshop space, build the rockets, and moonlight as a comedian. That's what I'm going to do. And use comedy to hedge the rocket building enterprise. And if the rocket thing fucks up, what am I going to do then? I'm going to try it again if I can. I would actually, and I also vetted that ambition by asking myself that. I asked myself, if Laval Stream 1 fails, will you try and do it again? I said, yes, I would. I would try and do it again. It's like, if I fail at stand-up comedy, will I try and do it again? Also, yes. So that's an ambition that has staying power, isn't it? But I mean, I can do any number of stand-up comedy attempts, can't I? I don't need to invest huge amounts of money like I do with building one rocket to do one stand-up comedy attempt. I can do basically as many as I like for bus fare, can't I? So I can go to an open mic night, do a set, and that's it. And I can do that as often as I want. So I don't really need to continually work on it at this point. There's also that. And the other thing is about building one rocket. That might cost me tens of thousands of pounds. In fact, it probably will. So that's a big thing to have go wrong and then to try again after that. But Elon Musk had to. He had 4 attempts with the Falcon 1, which they scaled up to the phenomenal Falcon 9 rocket. And then they got something into orbit eventually with the Falcon 1, and they got it off the launch pad, and everything was nominal, and it achieved supersonic speeds and got into space and all this sort of stuff, and it flew well, right? It flew nicely into space, which is what every person in rocketry wants to have happened, don't they? Don't we? But I don't want to be the dickhead also who just constantly talks about what he's going to do and doesn't do it. He's had to settle for being the dickhead who talks about what he wants to do and then does it. At least I do what I set out to do. It's usually delayed by a year or so, though. Yeah, I should be the guy who really doesn't talk about my ambitions and instead just does it. I should be that person, but I'm not that person. No. But then again, there's farming. There's also that. I'm also like working on this farm at the moment, a dairy farm, milky cows, doing like what a lot of people would consider a job they go nowhere near is what like most people would consider dairy farming to be. But I think it's just like one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life. I love working with cows. I think they're sweet and adorable and great company. I think they're like very like annoying, obviously sometimes when they don't cooperate and all this sort of thing. But yeah, it's a job. I think I'd be happy doing it for the rest of my life. That's what I constantly ask myself. I'm almost tempted to say yes, but I don't know yet. That's actually probably closer to the truth, and I'm just kind of sticking it out in dairy until I know for certain whether or not I want to do this for the rest of my life, and then commit to it, because I'm already fairly committed to it. But I also want to be a comedian. I also want to be a comedian and a writer. So it's balancing, isn't it? But then again, like, what point would stand-up comedy need to get to for me to give up on that entirely? I'd need to bomb 10 times in a row, all right? If I bomb 10 times in a row, I don't know, I'd pick myself up from that. I don't. I've never bombed 10 times in a row. I think the most bombings I've had in a row is like 5. But that fucking hurts as well. Yeah. They're like 4 or 5 bombings in a row. Then you turn up to a gig. Maybe that even helps the gig. Turning up to it and you're completely fucked off. You're just expecting it to bomb, and then like lo and behold, first thing you say, big laugh from the audience. Like, oh fuck yeah, here we go. It's fun again. stand up is so addictive like that. In fact, like it's all addictive. All these forms of work are addictive. I've noticed in my life. I'm addicted to dairy farming. I think I know why I'm addicted to dairy farming. It's because of the endorphins and the fitness and possibly the early mornings as well, and like brain chemistry and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like hooked on that. And yeah, getting in shape. That's working out is addictive anyway. Writing is addictive. I do that all the time. I'm constantly chasing some sort of dragon with that. Stand-up comedy, the feedback from the audience is addictive. The laughter is addictive. It's addictive making people laugh. But why is it a bad thing to be addicted to? I don't think it is a bad thing to be addicted to at all. So yeah, this is my life at 30. I'm very happy with it. Would I like to be living a different life right now? That's another good question to ask yourself, I think. Whether or not you'd like to live a different life in the moment now. No, I don't think I would. I still don't think I'd want a different life. As I said, my life has included a lot of misery. I don't want, but then again, the sort of person it's turned me into, maybe it's all been part of something, some overarching schema of punishment and galvanization into a certain sort of human being. I don't know. I don't want it to have been for nothing. I don't want to have suffered uselessly. I don't want to work uselessly ever. And maybe that's ultimately what got me into farming, because I can at least come home with this great sense of satisfaction that I've fed people, that my work keeps people alive, it keeps people from starving, it keeps people fed. There is a lot of very high quality satisfaction to be had in that sort of endeavour. And that might be what keeps me coming back to dairy farming. It's not just cute animals. No, it's something a bit more profound than that, I think. Yeah, it is. It's something vital that feeds people. Milk, dairy, cheese, all this sort of stuff. Traditionally, the foods of poorer people. And it still is even, and hence dairy farmers always bitching about milk prices, because milk prices have got to be low because everyone needs milk. It's not a case of everyone wanting milk necessarily either. Everyone actually needs it, because we can't all be fucking vegans. And we need to get our vitamin B12 and calcium and magnesium and iron and whatever else goes into the incredible array of nutrients found in cow's milk that turns out to be very beneficial for us. And meat, it's like, everyone can afford some meat, I think, or most people can afford some meat. But milk is also a vital part of our diets, as is meat, I believe. Or for most people anyway. But yes, if you're sort of middle class, educated or demi-educated, upwardly mobile, young type from an affluent area who's decided to become a vegan, it might seem as though everyone can follow the same lifestyle decisions as you. However, there are also far poorer people than you in the world, and it turns out only a cadre of you and your friends are capable of doing it, and maybe 100,000 or a couple of 100,000 people in the UK can do it at enormous environmental expense for the rest of the planet, when huge amounts of rainforest have been cut down for the initial soy boom in the 1980s, which is positively correlated with the increase in interest in veganism in the same sort of time frame. And then also Indonesian rainforest has been decimated as a result of coconut agriculture. So it follows, therefore, that if we were to all follow a vegan diet, we would we have to raise the Amazon rainforest and Indonesia's rainforests, wouldn't we? To feed everyone coconuts and soy. And sourcing our produce locally like we have for thousands of years, and consuming meat and dairy like we basically always have done. as Homo sapiens sapiens anyway. So yeah, but that's a topic for a different video, of course. How do I feel at 30? I feel tired right now from working. I've got a day off tomorrow, so I feel fantastic. For that reason, and also just because I feel happy. I feel consistently happy, which is, yeah, it's a great boon. It's a great gift. It's something this is the thing I'm happiest I managed to achieve in my 20s, I think, but it comes off the back of other achievements, obviously, of having, not wasted my time in my 20s, I think. So thank you for watching, everyone. If you're approaching 30, look forward to it. If you're in your 20s now, work your butt off for snacks later on and so on.